friends, thank you for joining us again on Food for Thought, and thank you for connecting with us in our parish during this Advent season and also as we prepare for Christmas. And hopefully you'll continue to connect with us into the new year. We've been having wonderful guests who have joined us and helped us to find insight and wisdom to deal with the challenges as we continue to journey forward. And so today we have our continuing guest. This is George Kent, who is going to join us, and we're going to talk a little bit about the chant settings for the season of Advent. You may have come to our church, either in person or online, but you would have heard, if you did, this wonderful chant setting, this beautiful music that is engaged by our choir and the congregation. And so today we're going to be talking a little bit about that setting with George, and George is going to open to us the wisdom of the ages. And so George, thank you for being with us today again, and thank you for doing all that you do. I know it's a challenging time for all of us, but one of the things that is most important that I think we're finding is that people are spiritually fed. And this music that you give us helps them to feel the security and comfort of a loving God. And so I just want to let you know that I'm grateful for that. And I don't always get a chance to tell you this because you're a very humble guy and a humble man. I just want you to know that I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be here.
So tell us about the Advent. The season of Advent is a season of preparation. It's a penitential season. It helps us to prepare for the coming of Christ in Christmas, and then also, in a larger sense, the coming of Christ into our hearts for our whole life. And so, with this chant setting that's so beautiful, could you tell us a little bit about its history and so forth?
Well, what we do. In the penitential seasons, if you think of Advent and of course Lent, the big one, we like to go to older music, medieval in the most part, or Renaissance. And that music is based on a whole different system than we have today. Today you're quite happy with the what we call tonal music, which means it uses the major scale, which is here on the board, if I just say C to C, but the arrangement is based in two different groups of 4 notes. Then you move up a whole step and do the same thing again. So there's a half step between mi and fa, and sol, la, si, do, ti, do, if you like. And that's tonal music. For example, you all know this Christmas hymn. That's tonal music. It just uses that scale. Doesn't come about until the beginning of the Renaissance, and I'm sorry, take that back, to the beginning of the Baroque period, about 1630, tonality is finally here. Prior to that time, they used only the white notes on the piano, and they had a series of scales that ran from D to high D, E to E, F to F, and these were known as modes. Now if you listen, the half step is in a different place. That's not tonal, it's modal. Or the next one, they're all different modes. And the medieval music uses that. It's a little bit, I hate to use the term somber because I don't really think of it as somber, but it's not as festive, if you will, as tonal music. And that's the main reason we use it during the penitential season. And if you think of the Kyrie that we sing, but you hear, you don't hear.
Yeah.
It's different, more plaintive, if you will, and maybe makes one think more serious about the coming time. And Lent, the same thing. The Mass that we use during this time in Advent is the Missa Marialis. Marialis because it's a Mass that is sung specifically in the church year for the Feast of St. Mary.
St. Mary.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's a compilation of many. It's not one single unit written all at the same time. To just stop for a second and talk about what's sung at a Mass, the Kyrie, the Gloria in Excelsis, the Sanctus, the Agnus Dei, these are the so-called, I've forgotten.
Service music.
Thought. Yes, but these are the normal.
Yeah.
As in we have other items which are known as the propers, and these you'll find in every Mass. The propers change the text, but these items don't change. They're always the same. Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy. The Gloria is not sung during Advent because it's very festive text-wise, song of praise, and that's left out. Over the years, the Kyrie, for example, is 12th century. The various movements are from different centuries, which I list in our Sunday bulletin, so that people can see where they come from.
I love this because what it is with the, and this is what that you listed. The Kyrie is listed as the 12th century. Then you have the Sanctus as the 14th century.
That's correct.
And then the Agnus Dei as 10th century.
That's right. The Agnus is very early. And they're melodies that just were collected over the years and sung in the traditional church.
And they're all following this modal.
They're all modal.
Modal,
yes,
okay.
They're all modal, exactly. I mean, if you take... that's entirely different than...
Oh, yeah.
The Sanctus. Lovely melodies, but more of a contemplative thing, and that's why we use them, and we sang them all during Advent. We just put them to bed now. However, they're Gregorian melodies, and aside from the Mass melodies, there are a great number of hymns. For example, modal.
Wow.
Modal. And one of the great Advent hymns is the Condita Alme Siderum. which I used as a prelude on Sunday for the organ. So it
But
was
that's
done
also
by-
the same music that that you use for the little Advent lessons and carols, the apple tree?
no, it's
No.
not the apple tree. It's a creator of the stars of night.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that's right, yeah.
George Oldroyd wrote a beautiful setting of that for organ, and likewise.
But you do use it for the Advent lessons and carols?
No, we didn't use it.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
No, Veni Emmanuel we used.
Okay, all
We
right.
sang that. But, for example, the anthem that we sang yesterday, Creator of the Stars of Night, let me just play this for you. Now the second verse, listen carefully. This composer in the second verse put the melody in the bass. Hear it? In the next phrase he went over to the tenor. Third phrase he went to the alto. And last phrase the sopranos. So you see, these old Gregorian melodies get a lot of usage even in modern time.
So one of the things that I know that that people in the congregation, our congregation is used to this, right? But in Episcopal churches, they always find songs during Advent a little bit difficult to sing, unless they have some leadership in it, and maybe it's because it's the modal. It maybe.
Well, no, I don't.
Or maybe not.
I don't think of it that way, but I would say that Advent is a short season.
Yeah.
Whereas, for example, Pentecost,
Oh yeah, they
Trinity goes on forever.
And then very
Of course,
familiar.
Then you're into an awful lot of hymnody, and the hymns. Well, that's a subject for another lecture. But,
Yeah.
But the study of hymns is just ongoing.
So it isn't like that the music is, the tonal music or the modal music might be different in terms of the way we approach it, or maybe it is different, but that doesn't add to the difficulty. It's just that it's just different.
No, it's just different, and not all Advent. I mean, tonal.
Yeah.
Tonal.
Ah, okay.
Tonal.
Okay.
Tonal.
Okay. All right.
You know, the bulk of, although the middle hymn yesterday, Highland Rice, tonal, modal rather. So, you know, there's a great variety, and there are plenty of modal hymns in the normal section of the hymnal, the large section. The bulk are tonal, because when tonality came in the 1630s, it was here to stay. And it went through a long period until about 1907.
So why do they switch from the one to the other? What is it? Why?
Good question. There's not a really good answer for that.
Is it the instruments were changing?
No, it wasn't that so much, but music itself changed at that point, and we suddenly got into various different keys. I mean, you have... Now, if I use the black notes as well, whereas originally it was... because, and the truth of the matter is, you go up and then you have a mode based on C to C, which is our, but it wasn't very popular during the Renaissance and medieval period.
So it was like really popular in the 16th century or
17th century.
17th century.
Yeah,
So this is after the printing press and
yeah. And part of the reason is you've got two key centers there, if you will, and you find that there's a strong relation between the harmony for the do chord, the C, and you get 5-1, and just to go a little bit off the subject, when you get these big smashes in classical music, those are the notes that can be played on the brass instruments because they didn't have valves, and the timpani is always those two notes. So there was a strong emphasis to make that connection. But to get back to the masses,
yeah, I'm sorry.
We're going to change now for Christmas, and we will do the Missa Brevis of Healy Willen, which beautiful music in what
sounds
we would call a
meditative.
major key.
Uh-huh.
However, the melody
Plaintive?
that's a Christmas medieval hymn.
So is modal.
Yeah, only begotten Son. Yeah, it's modal, but Willen made a whole mass out of that. That's the Kyrie. If we go over to the, if I can find it here, Sanctus. Here it comes again. And he very cleverly made a mass out of a wonderful medieval hymn, the Missa Brevis, and it's very appropriate for the Christmas season.
For the Christmas season, so
Yeah,
it'll be just for the...
it's based on a Christmas medieval hymn.
And it's also, and it sounds, I mean, it doesn't sound as celebratory, festive, but it does...
No, it's not as festive. I mean, we do other masses here,
Yeah.
and if you think of the Dark in E, which is a lovely, but that's a real, blast, and other masses that we do. The British in particular have umpteen mass settings for the Anglican Church, and composers ever since that church was formed have written tons of masses, and they're somewhat more festive, some are not.
So
but it always is sort of, as Gilbert and Sullivan says, make the punishment fit the crime. You really want to do that, and
well, it's interesting though, because I think it also adds to the emotion that we get from the service. I mean, when I'm listening to the piece that you're going to use for Christmas, I think of Jesus incarnated and with his mother, a baby, and those quiet, reflective moments of joy, but also, power.
right.
I mean, and holiness, sacredness. I mean, those are some of the words that come out.
Yeah,
Right.
well, of course, that gets you to the point of what is the music for, and the music is to re-emphasize the word,
Right.
which is the most important part of it, which is why we make the choir work so hard on diction.
Yeah.
But that's what it's all about. It really is to reinforce what the thought is. And in Lent, we will use another Mass. We'll use the Missa de Angelis,
Mr. Diaz.
which is another medieval Mass,
Okay.
the Mass of the Angels. And it uses different modal tunes, but very beautiful stuff, more penitential.
More penitential.
Whereas during Easter, we're going to use probably Dark in E
Darkany.
or Howells, the Col Reg or the Collegium Regalis, masses that were written for King's College in Cambridge, and all the British composers, the major ones wrote a lot for kings in particular, which is, I think, unquestionably one of the major choirs of the world.
Yeah.
So,
The Christmas, the Mass for the Christmas is what
the
it
Missa Brevis of Willen, which uses
Willen.
again. And on it goes, it's a lovely hymn, lovely melody.
So maybe we could come again and talk about the Missa Brevis during the season of Christmas.
Well, you could, but probably should take a bigger subject.
Okay.
I mean, for example, carols, which is a huge subject.
Yeah.
I mean, there are umpteen carols, and where do they come from, and how do they get done? There's a huge history to that.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
It's funny though, because I was, in our church, we don't sing Christmas carols during the season of Advent, whereas everybody else starts to sing those Christmas carols.
Yes, and that.
Well, I mean, I'm not complaining about it.
Especially Walmart puts out Christmas.
That's
before,
right. That's right.
They put it out before Thanksgiving.
But there is the Advent season has this beautiful music that helps us to prepare in a way that's different, and then when Christmas season starts, which it's a season, it's not just one day. It lasts for two Sundays.
Days,
yeah, and so then we're able to kind of really relish those carols.
Right. And then you get to Epiphany, which is a longer season, but that has its own specialties as well. And the idea of church music is to reinforce what those seasons are all about.
Yes.
So that's what we try to do.
Well, then next time, hopefully we could talk about the carols.
We could, yeah.
That would be great.
That's a fabulous history. We have, I don't know how many carols we have in our library, but it's hundreds.
Wow.
Yeah, it's hundreds. Yeah.
George, I appreciate this time that you spend with me. I always, any time I spend with you is great, but I think this, for the people who are connecting with us online, I did want to mention one person that did connect with us a lot because she was coming from home. She couldn't come to church, and she appreciated, her family appreciated it. We just did her funeral, Marsha Holly.
Yes.
It's interesting, when the pandemic began, we started to put all of these services online, and she would be one that would just watch every service and the food for thought that we have. And speaking to her family, we just did her funeral on Saturday.
Yes.
And they were just remarking how important this online ministry was, and that she was able to hear and sing even while at home. It was just beautiful.
Yeah.
And so I just want to thank you for allowing us to do this and making it available to our parishioners who are connecting from all over.
Thank you.
So I think anticipating the carols conversation, but I think our time is almost done as well, and I want to thank you all for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed this conversation. I always do enjoy speaking with George. It just keeps me calm for the coming season, and not only the coming season, but knowing that, you know, these great ancient hymns, this great tradition that we have, it comes from a humanity that has seen the ups and downs of life, and the challenges and the joyful moments. And I know that many of us are feeling a bit challenged at this moment, but when we look at the tradition of music and the tradition of God coming to us in word and music and in our lives, we understand that we could find peace, because at the end of the day, everything will be okay. This music, this time with George, helps me to reinforce that in the midst of the ups and downs of life, God is always there, and God will always continue to be there for us as we continue our journey. So I hope that you find that peaceful as well. As is our tradition, let's end with this prayer. This is a prayer that was a new tradition, written by Bishop Thomas Brown of Maine for this program. The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Let us pray. Jesus Christ, you traveled through towns and villages, curing every disease and illness. At your command, the sick were made well. Come to our aid now in the midst of the global spread of the coronavirus. Heal those who are sick with the virus. May they regain their strength and health through quality medical care. Heal us from our fear, which prevents nations from working together and neighbors from helping one another. Be present with those in authority who are making hard decisions. Support the medical professionals, emergency responders, counselors, and caregivers. We ask this all in your name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Join with me in the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Friends, go in peace to love and serve God. Spread the light of Christ to the world around you. The world needs it right now.